just getting his notes. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Your family missed you.
I know.
Your wife was terrible when you were away.
No.
When's he coming
never.
back? When's he coming back? How many more sleeps? When's he coming back? Tracking you on 360. My goodness me. He's 173.2 Ks away. He's now 171. He stopped. Why have they stopped? Come on. At least you know you're loved.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Let's jump straight into it. So the first question I have, you've done many mission trips before, right? I mean, you've been up to Zambia and tried to get run over by trucks and all sorts of stuff. So this is not your first rodeo that you've been on, but it's been a while. What was it like preparing for this trip, getting into the groove again, setting up? I mean, it's a little bit different going up to Malawi than it is driving down to Double Mouth. So talk us through a little bit of what preparation was like getting ready for it.
Yeah, so it was September last year. We went down to Hole in the Wall, Pierce and myself, and we met Hein van Heerden. You remember Hein van Heerden? He was here in Longbeard, yes, February. We met up with him and we spent some time chatting to him, and he was setting up this mission trip, and I just felt there at this point, this is something that I needed to do again. It'd been 10 years, I think, since we'd last been on mission. Actually, no, it's been about 8 years. We also did Swaziland a couple of years after that. But yeah, so I really sort of put it out of my mind when we started coming back. But as I was sitting there just now, God was just linking things up for me again, which I'd forgotten about. But anyways, I'd forgotten, first of all, what it involves getting across a border. Okay. Let alone 3 borders, 2 borders, 3 borders, yeah. Let alone 3 borders. The paperwork that I needed just for my car alone was horrendous. The ineptocracy of our vehicle licensing department was a chaos. It nearly got me kicked out of Mozambique this week because the form they gave me wasn't a police clearance certificate. It was an internal document from the cops. With a lot of good talking and God's grace, we got through that. But just the sheer, and then the planning of it, Hein sent me a document of 5 pages, small writing of stuff we needed to take, everything from malaria medication to ponchos to gumboots to, the novice that I was, hadn't done it. I bought everything, okay, which some of the stuff I didn't use. But yeah, the day came and we were ready to go. But there was probably 6 months worth of hard work trying to get all these papers and forms and everything together.
So tell us a bit about the trip up. I mean, we saw some nice photographs and there's a couple up there.
Yeah.
I believe that Mozambique has got the most stunning highways, really make you look at the wonderful territory and countryside and stuff. Tell us a bit about what it was like traveling through Northern Province, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Malawi.
So just to take you back to South Africa, the night we left at 10 o'clock here to be at the Petroport in other side Kranskop, which is an hour and 40 minutes away, and I thought, well, I'm ready. I've got everything. I'll go and have a couple of hours sleep. It never happened. So I had woken up at 7 o'clock that morning, and I hadn't gotten to bed till about 48 hours later, just for sheer driving. But blanket statement, I will never, ever moan about our potholes again. All right? We don't have potholes in this country. There is not one single pothole in this country. That's all I'm saying to you. We crossed the border. Beautiful. South Africa. Where are you going? Zimbabwe. Why? Teaching. Because we can't tell them we're Christians. They don't want us there. They'll kick us out if we said we were missionaries. So we have to be teachers, okay? Which wasn't technically a lie, but it was a teacher. So we crossed over, got to Zimbabwe. What a beautiful people. They are the most incredible people I've ever met. Their whole immigration process was so slick. It is so professional. I absolutely loved their border post. I don't love border posts, period. All right. I left there early in the morning, went up to Masavingo, and that's where we started hitting the first of the potholes. To their credit, they're busy doing a lot of work on that road. So there's a lot of stop starts and crossing over. So you would cross over the road, cross over the road, cross over the road. I think I lost fillings, because I hit some of those potholes with my car like you have no idea. We got up to the Great Zimbabwe Hotel, which I thought, it's a little bit run down, but there were photos of Nelson Mandela and the Queen all staying there. In its heyday, it must have been a beautiful hotel. That photograph there is the biggest baobab tree I saw ever. In fact, I don't know if it's on here. I did take a photograph where I stood inside the tree and took a photograph of my car. It's huge. There it is. That's it there. It's the biggest baobab tree I've ever seen, and I don't know how old it is, but it's hollowed out. Sorry, beg your pardon. So we drove through to the next morning to Muscat. We stayed at this place, camped, where I learned the very valuable lesson of making sure your car is level when you put a rooftop tent out. Because when I woke up that morning, I sort of crawled into a fetal ball in the one corner of the rooftop tent as I slid down as I was sleeping. But I learned after that, level the car out before you go anywhere else. Anyhow, got to Masavinga, and that was my first experience of rural township village. So everything happens on the main road. All right, your shops, your 1,000 million Vodacom shops, everything is there, and they're literally on the edge of the highway. So now, being a South African, we slow down when we see a group of people, right? Not the buses. They go through these places at like 120 k's an hour. They don't even slow down. And there's kids playing on the road. There's people selling. There's goats. I was known as the goat whisperer because if he was a goat, he was going to run in front of me. All right. Masavinga, and then out from there we go straight through to Harare, where I met a guy by the name of Dave Williams. Also, God's hand on him. Massive sugar farmer in KwaZulu-Natal. A year and a half ago, God said, sell everything, pastor a church in Harare. He sold everything, went up to Harare, pastors a church of about 500 people up there. Beautiful people. The roads from there, of course, deteriorated. There's a place in Harare called the Bull's Guts, and we didn't go through it, but we were adjacent to it, which was enough to terrify any sane person because it's just, and I must tell you something, I think I just put it on the group. A Zimbabwean law does not facilitate for a robot that doesn't work. It's not a four-way stop as it is here in our country. It's a free-for-all. So the biggest bucky, the biggest bull bar, and if you can keep your eyes closed while crossing, you'll get across the road. That's how it works. You just go into the oncoming traffic. The guys are racing down from one side. They'll slow down for you. You know what I loved about it? Nobody got angry. Nobody hooted at me. Nobody got annoyed because I cut them off. They just let you in and off you go. It was the most terrifying experience of my life because, but it was also a big learning lesson for me that people become mean because they become mean. They're not born mean. And if you do it long enough, people change. And it was an amazing thing that, crossed over the border. That was the nasty one. I can't even remember the name of it. It starts with an M. Okay. They say they always have problems. Yeah. That's why I nearly got kicked out of Mozambique because I didn't have the police clearance certificates. But there was a South African girl from KwaZulu-Natal who was working for Mozambican immigration. And when she saw we were South African, she sort of smoothed everything out and let us go through. So it was fine. Then the roads got bad. If Zimbabwe was terrible, Mozambique is 100 times worse. Okay. Carried on through there, went through, and Alan, you mentioned it, went through Tet. And if you ever think we've got big construction vehicles in this country, you must go through Tet when they come past you, abnormal, and the tire is the size of that wall over there, by the kitchen, and this thing's on a truck, on a flatbed, and they're pulling it. We stayed at a place called Kukutana, lodge in Tet. It's just outside Tet. You had to go through this dingy little village to get there. I thought, where's this guy taking us? We're going to get robbed. Typical South African mentality. We're going to get robbed and raped and all kinds of stuff, So, anyways, we ended up at this place. Beautiful on the Zambezi. It was phenomenal. The drums at night. And I asked, what are the drums all about? He says, no, they put people on the islands because they plant crops on the islands to keep the hippos out. So they play drums the whole night to keep the hippos out of the crops. Crossed over Malawi, nightmare border post, okay? It took us 4 hours to get our insurance alone. That's why I nearly got kidnapped, okay? I think the ransom note was for 100,000 rand, which 100,000 kwachas, which effectively was about $6.50. All right. So they clearly don't understand the idea of ransoms. But anyhow, and then into Malawi, and the roads didn't improve from there on out.
All right. So one thing I've noticed on any mission trip or any outreach is that the volume of photographs gets less and less and less as the trip goes on. And this happens universally. I've seen it across my entire life. Because as you get further in, as you got closer and closer to Malawi, and as time passed by, the purpose of the trip changes from the trip into mission and why God actually brought you there. And by the time you're coming home, there's one of two things. A, you just want to get home and sleep in your bed again. But B, also, you're so consumed about the mission and what's happening and what God is doing and what message you're bringing back and what He's going to do next, that the thought of taking photographs anywhere, suddenly it's not important anymore. Hence the reason we track you on 360. Talk to us a little bit about how you saw that change taking place in you and the team as the importance of the logistics and the trip suddenly faded into the background and it became about the mission work.
Yeah. I went there with an expectation that we were going to preach and teach and we were going to, do this thing. But I didn't. When I got there, Hein pulled me aside and said to me, listen, just observe. You're here to observe. I want you to have a look at what and how we do things, which was probably the first sort of indication that there was going to be something more coming my way. But so I really sat as an observer, watching how everything else happened. Now, one of the pieces of good news that came out of the trip is that a guy by the name of Henning, you'll see him on stage there. He's going to come and spend a weekend with us sometime next year, and he's going to come and share his stories of mission work in Africa. It's going to be an amazing weekend. So we haven't got dates yet, but we'll let you know when. And so I also spoke to him, and he said, just watch, just look what's going on. And then one of the first meetings at the lake, actually, he came and found me, said, please come with me. I need you to be in this meeting. I want you to have a look at how we're doing things. Now, already the bells were going off, because now why would they just ask me to come and sit in on the meeting? And there's a reason for it. So we spent our first 3 nights at the lake, which was a team building exercise, which was great. We met the other part of the team because we went up in two arms. Met the other part, didn't really connect all that with them. We connected more with our sort of second team that went up. And then we came back up to Blantyre, where we minister at church. It's called New Covenant Celebration Church. It's an NCMI church. And here I began to... I was reminded, I didn't see it for the first time, I'd seen it before, but I was reminded what worship needed to look like. I was reminded about what a spirit-filled church needed to look like. And I left there after the 3 days thinking, as Origins, we've got some work to do, We definitely have some work to do, but we are on the right track. I had a very overwhelming sense that as a church, we're on the right track. And I say that because, that was in the village. On some of the photographs, you'll see a stage there. There's a guy called Jonas. Now, if I've ever seen a man with a heart for worship, it was this man. He would just walk up. We went to other churches too. He doesn't even know the people. He walks up and he starts leading worship. You know that they don't have overheads? They don't use words like we do. They know the songs. It's in here and it's in here. And they would sing the same thing over and over. And I've often battled. I loved our worship this morning because I know the words. They mean something to me. They connect with me, as with most of you. But in that place, they were speaking whatever the language is. Chichewa. And eventually, you got into the mode. You didn't understand a word they were saying, but you got into the mode of worship. And the church worships. Charmaine, you'll absolutely hate their music team, because as I was watching it, the worship leader has no mic. He stands up in a room full of about 300 people. He's just leading worship. There's no order to it. He just chooses songs out of his head as he's on stage. The bass player sat by the sound desk in the back of the church playing his bass. The lead guitarist was around a corner. You can't see him. He was there. And every now and then someone who thought they could play the keyboard would come up and just bang the keys a little bit. But God was worshipped. And God was honored and God was glorified. It always worked out. And that was just so amazing. And I thought maybe sometimes... and it's not a criticism to how we do things, the Western Church functions this way, but maybe sometimes we practice so well, we do so well that we fail to take the Holy Spirit into account for where we're going. And I'm not saying that's the case every time, but I think sometimes we must just get out of his way and just let him do what he does, So that's it. So we for me, again, I was still a bit remote. I was trying to figure out, where do I fit in? How do I fit into this? And then something happened. It was where? It was at the village. Yeah, that's right. I think it was at the village. There's a lot happened. Okay. Now, if you've ever lived in a rooftop tent, then you'll know. I don't know if there's a photograph of me in it. I think there is. It's like a turtle. You'll know that you climb in and you zip up because the mosquitoes there are like coordinated. Okay, they all got Air Force wings because if you stand outside and you just don't spray or you don't do anything, they come and they'll take you away. They're massive. And malaria is a very real thing, by the way. Once we literally left Harare, it became a very real thing. So every night, every morning, there's a tent. Every morning I would before I put the tent down, I would take a tin of Doom and spray the inside of the tent, then zip everything up and then close it and off we go. And I'd spray Peaceful Sleep. And apparently Tabard is like deodorant to them because it doesn't work. Everybody says don't use Tabard, it doesn't work. Okay, so for future reference, and literally we were so exhausted because we were driving at some points up to 900 k's a day to get to the different places we needed to get. It's 4,500 k's in total we drove in just over 2 weeks. And so the one night I got into the tent, first of all you lie dead still and just wait. There's no mozzies in the tent. That's great. I can't hear them. And then and this is like at 7 o'clock. I'm going to bed at 7 o'clock. All right. You're so exhausted from the driving, but you climb into bed. And I woke up periodically praying, literally praying in prayer when I woke up. And that sort of has been carrying on a little bit for me. I don't sleep very well at night, so at about 3 o'clock, Bev will tell you I normally get out of bed, go to the lounge, take the duvet, and go sit there, and then I'll read my Bible or I'll pray. And that sort of carried on. The other night, it was the night before last, I think, sitting in the lounge, and I woke up like 30 times, and every time I woke up, I was praying. You spend a lot of time praying and talking to God, and I dealt with a lot of things that I was dealing with and still dealing with. And so it was. It wasn't this wow moment. I'll tell you right now, nothing drastically changed in me on this mission. But I did leave there the Sunday after the service at this village that we went to with the knowledge that this was what I wanted to do. This is what I think God was calling me to do, to get involved in this outreach, missionary work as such. And then Henning came to see me in the village there one day, and he said, and I wasn't planning to go, and I still don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll figure it out. He said to me, I need you to come to Hole in the Wall this year, which is in November, middle of November somewhere. I need you to come to Hole in the Wall with me. I've invited about 15 new church plant pastors to come with, and I need you to mentor them, to tell them everything about what it means to plant a place like this. So I said, well, let me just check. It's very difficult. We've got Global Connect coming up and Global Equip. We've got a lot of stuff happening. So, but I've been thinking about it and I've been praying about it, and no answers yet around that. But God is definitely, I think, moving me more to an apostolic role rather than a preacher. I mean, those preaching and teaching plays a huge part in the apostolic, but I think God is definitely moving me more to an apostolic role, which means reaching out to the nations, whether it's and you know what, and I wrote this last night when I was sitting there working out this thing. I said this, actually, no, I'll get to that just now. It's part of your next question. So, yeah, I have some work to do in terms of what my calling is. Does it mean that I'm got nothing, will have nothing to do with Origins anymore? No, it doesn't. I'm very much involved. We're still elders. Everything is in place. It's God has just added a second element to my faith now, in calling of faith. As we and let me tell you a story. This was, if you don't believe in God, then this will change your mind. Okay, all right. On the way back was on Monday, I think, Monday or Tuesday, yeah. On the way back, it was Sunday. That's right, it was Sunday. We had a church service at the village in Chichawa, and we left at about 10:30. Now we had to get to the Mozambique border before they shut down, because it's a minor border. It doesn't stay open permanently. And so we pushed through to Blantyre. We had to load some equipment, drop we had two Dutchmen from the Netherlands with us on the trip. They had to fly back from Blantyre airport the next day, so they stayed at the church, and beg your pardon, and so we had to push through Blantyre, and we got, by the time we got on the road to the Mozambican border, it was dark. Now, the last place you want to be in Mozambique is on a road in Mozambique at night. Okay, so it was dark, and we were about 15 k's out of Kukatana at Tet, and we were pushing through. Everything was going well. We got into Tet. We turned off the ground road, went through this little village all the way down to the lodge. And as we got through the gate at the lodge, the Mitsubishi Pajero in front of me blew its head gasket. Now he's in Mozambique. It's thousands of k's away. It blows its head gasket. There's nothing we can help us. Now listen to this. This is how God works. I'm driving in behind him, and all of a sudden a guy knocks on my window, on my passenger. I was driving with a guy called Christian van der Hout. He's an elder at a church in Witrifuur, White River. And a guy leans and looks into me. He says, "Are you Christian van der Hout?" Because the light was off. He says, "Yeah." And he opens it's one of his friends. Okay? Now listen to this. It's one of his friends. So immediately there's a connection. He says, and I said, and they started chatting. He said, "Look, we've got a problem. One of our guys' head gasket is gone." He says, "Don't panic. I got you." He goes and calls a friend of his, Anton. Anton comes back. He has a look. He says, "Yes, you've blown the head gasket, but don't panic. I work for Outsurance Recoveries, Africa Recoveries." Who are you insured with? Outsurance. So immediately the problem was solved. Yeah, we thought this massively big problem of how do we get this car back to South Africa, and it costs about 100,000 rand to repatriate the car from Africa if you get stuck. And he said, Gustav, the owner of the vehicle, said to him, "Look, I'm only covered to 75,000 rand. Or 65,000 rand for the recovery." He said, "Don't panic, I'll do it for you." And he fetched the car on Saturday, got it across the border. Last night. Yesterday, they got the car across the border, and he managed to sort the car out for him. Now listen to this. The beauty of this is that the guy who is a friend of Christian and the connection of Anton, who took the car through to, who came and fetched the car, is elders at the new base church in Avianto, in Krugersdorp. He owns Rhino 4x4. Good contact to have. He owns, and they couldn't bend over backwards. We leave Kukatana the next day. We've left the car there. They're going to go and fetch it. He phones us on the way back. Anton, he says, "Listen, guys, we're going to hit Harare very late. Where can we stay?" Dave Williams, who lives in Harare, says, "Pull them in. We've got space." They came in and they camped with us. So, the miracle behind that is, it's unbelievable. I can't make up stuff like this.
There's a phrase that I've heard before. You might have heard it as well. His grace runs deep. Right people in the right place at the right time is not coincidence. It's not karma. It's not good luck. It's a sovereign God moving in his kingdom, sorting things out. That's exciting. All right, so in the last couple of months, you've had a complaint in your leadership meetings that you don't have anything to do.
I'm not going to complain again.
I think God was creating space for something that comes next. What does next look like as far as you can see it now? God will change our plans anyway, but...
Next. Okay. One of the things that moved me very deeply at the village that day was Heinz's wife and their eldership or leadership had made dolls, about 111 dolls, little rag dolls, okay? And we started giving them out to the kids, and it was all fine. I actually didn't have any problems with that. They gave the dolls out, and they gave out sweets. It was great. Until I sat in the worship service that night outside. It was an outdoor worship service. It was an evangelism event, so there was a call to salvation, and about 40 people came up and gave their life. But as I was sitting there, a young girl came past me with a baby on her back, and she was playing with the doll. And that knocked me, because here's this little girl who has to have a baby still playing with dolls. And I think that moved me. That was the key to everything. When I realized that this is what we need to do, this is where I need to go. So, next steps. Most of you have been with us. Since the beginning of our 3-year plan. We've gone through identity last year, and Alan spoke a little bit about dangerous prayers and dangerous faith. We dealt with that. If you haven't watched the videos, do yourself a favor, go and watch it. It's life-changing. It really is. This year we're in the middle of equip, so we've been really sort of leaning much towards equipping the church for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to go. Okay. So next year, as we come back from December, it's going to be all about sending. And I've had to really think hard about how that sending is going to look. And I think the trip to Mozambique, to Malawi, definitely solidified that a little bit for me, because though the description, I can't remember the reference now, the fields are white with harvest, but the laborers are few. Okay. That became quite a powerful piece of scripture, because the effect that we have in Malawi, in that one church or those two churches we were at, can actually be considered as negligible, all right? But we've got the Holy Spirit, and we've got God. And so and Henning says he's seen this for 30, 40 years, he's seen this. You do one weekend there, the flame takes, and the church grows. It's the way it is. It's the way it's supposed to be. And so when I saw that little girl with a baby on her back, and the doll, I said to one of the guys who was there, I said, and what is about this? He says, unfortunately, that is the norm. They have nothing else to do, so they have babies. And unfortunately, often they're not even in their 20s yet. And they're still children, and they're playing with these dolls. So next for me is, how do we take identity? How do we take the equipping year that we're in right now and convert that into sending? What do I have to do? What does God have to do? And what does the Holy Spirit have to do to take every single one of us in this church this morning and send you? One of the things he did say is that, be careful, you can't send everybody to Malawi, all right? And you can't send everybody out on the sort of mission that I was doing. And he gave us a vision. He gave me a vision, which I shared with the leadership at our planning meeting a couple of weeks ago, is that we can actually look at our ministries as the mission field. So one of the things, there's a couple of people in the church today who are here because of coffee. Sounds very simple, but the coffee ministry effectively did what we wanted it to do. It opened the door for people to ask questions, to begin to think about what this was all about. So instead of, I think for me, and that's what was solidified, instead of us thinking, oh no, I'm on logistics, or I'm on worship, or I'm on music, or I'm preaching, instead of thinking, no, this is, we need to begin to rethink that and go, you know what? God's given me a mission. I need to preach a sermon today. God's given me a mission. I need to make sure that kitchen runs properly. God's given me a mission. I need to make sure that the children's church is working. When we begin to become mission orientated, when we begin to think mission instead of labor, then your faith begins to change. The way you function begins to change. Because the minute, and it's very easy for, Pierce will tell you this, if you stand anywhere behind this line here, it's very easy to make it about me. It can become about me very, very quickly, because you're all looking at me. I'm the center of attention. It can become about me. But when we begin to think mission, When everything we do is a mission, the fields are white with harvest. There's places in the church we need to go on mission. We need to serve. That doesn't mean it's going to happen only here. There's going to be places outside where we'll be doing work too. But when you begin to think mission, you begin to think differently, because then it's not the labor that I think it is. It's actually God relying on me to do something for Him, and that changes literally everything. So for me, next, I think as we go into next, as we end off this year, and please, or whatever you do not miss end of September through to the end of the year. Okay, I think the area that we are going to be dealing with, and I'm not sure if you've told, not yet, but don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. The area is an 8-week series we're going to be dealing with. It is as life-changing as dangerous praise. It's going to be as life-changing as dangerous faith. All right. But you have to be here. You actually have to be here, because if we can get that one thing right that we'll be talking about very, very soon, okay, then mission becomes second nature. It becomes something I can do, because then I'm not looking at the person there or the person here or the person here through the filters that I've created, through whatever has happened in my life. I discard those and I begin to see the person. And that's what I learned also quite largely. We go, oh, I'm so glad I'm a white Western person, because I've got this and I've got that. You know what? My challenges for mission doesn't happen beforehand, doesn't happen afterwards. It's happening now. All right? Bear myself are being attacked like you have no idea. All right? This morning I came out, drove to the top of the hill here, and didn't do anything. John phoned me, said, please, I need the mics. I went back home. Got there, I realized they broke into the house, into the garden last night, or somehow, and stole all my copper pipes from my garden. Now, I could have, at 6:30, I'm going to church, I've got to sort this water leak thing out. We didn't, I get to Harare, we're on our way home. I park in Dave's yard. Transmission problems. The light comes up on my car. Transmission issues. I said, no, I'm not going to claim that. I'm not going to take that. I know that I've got a sensor issue in the car. It's purely sensor. It went away, it never came back. So everything, and that's what I want to say to you next. If you step into the next year, you need to be very aware what you're stepping into. You're asking for trouble. You're asking to open yourself up to an attack that you not necessarily want, but it's going to come. Because when we step out into the kingdom, and we step out into the work that God requires of us, all hell's going to break loose in your life right now. We're there right now. Bev and myself are right now. We're dealing with it. But I've learned to pray, maybe for the first time in my life, over the last 2 weeks. I've learned how to pray. I've learned how to speak to God, bring it to Him. I don't always get it right, but speak to Him. So next is really watch this space. It's and be prepared to become active in the church. And of course, within the limitations of your age or whatever your circumstances are, your health, we're not going to be ridiculous and send ill people to wherever, or the elderly to do things they can't do, or young children to do things they're not equipped to do. We're going to be age appropriate. We're going to be circumstantially appropriate to whatever is required.
So this question's not on there, and I think I know the answer to it. If you had a choice to go back to September last year and rewrite the last year with no Malawi trip, no Zim trip, and in exchange for not doing any of that, the devil leaves you alone for a year.
Would I do it?
Would you do it?
No, I wouldn't do it.
Stick the microphone up so that you can hear you.
I wouldn't change a thing. If Malawi didn't happen, if Hole in the Wall didn't happen, if I would still essentially do the same thing. If I knew, let me rephrase the question a little bit. If I knew in September last year going on this mission would cause all the grief it has, because it does, make no mistake about it. Going on a mission like this, it uproots your life. It causes a lot of problems that you don't necessarily want or like, but they're there. If I knew what this Malawi trip would do to my life, to my work, to the things that have gone wrong, Would I? No, I wouldn't change. I would do the same thing again. I would continue to do that. And you know why I would do that? It's because the one thing I learned in all of my prayers is, I will never forsake you.
Amen.
I will never leave you. I've got you. I've got your back. It doesn't look like it right now, Lord, but I've got your back, he says. And that's where the challenge comes in.
Amen. That's exactly it. And I think we've heard testimonies from people right throughout today. And they're not the only people with testimonies here. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. All right. One more question, and then we'll close off with song and go get some snacks. Any last thoughts? Anything else you want to share with us?
I did write something down. Yes. Okay. I'm going to read this because I think it's important that you get what this means. Matthew 28:19-20 says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." All nations. All right. Now that for some of you may mean people in this church. For others it may mean crossing the border. But all nations. God didn't say go and just share the gospel. He said go and make disciples of all nations. Baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. There's the other word that's important, commanded. And behold, I'm always with you to the end of the age. So here's the thing. All are called. Every one of us is called to do some level of mission work. All right? All are sent. Next year, you're going to realize that when we begin to do this work, okay? We are sent to all the nations, inside the church and outside of the church. Okay? The Great Commission isn't the great suggestion. All right? The command is not a request. You're to be sent, not to sit. And that was it. When I sat this morning, and hopefully you know who you are. I know who you are. Hopefully you know who you are. But God clearly said to me this morning before I don't get those sort of messages, by the way. All right? He said there's somebody in this church right now who needs to get their life right. There's someone here who needs to step into a deeper relationship with him. There's someone here who actually perhaps needs to make that decision right as soon as possible, right now even if possible. I know who you were speaking about. I hope you know who you are. If you think it's you, please come and have a chat to me afterwards. But it came through crystal clear. And I sat just before I got up. I said, do you really want me to do that, Lord? Do you want me to say that? And again, he said, speak the word. So, yeah, it's out there. There is somebody here who needs to step into that closer relationship with God this morning. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, André.